From the 20th to the 22nd of November, the grassroots movement, We the 99%, will host the People's Summit for Global Economic Justice at Constitution Hill in Johannesburg. Now, the gathering, which takes place just days before the G20 Leaders Summit, aims to give communities a platform to reclaim their voices and challenge a global economy that too often prioritizes profit over people. Now, the summit is bringing together activists, civil society workers, youth, and changemakers from South Africa and beyond. It seeks to highlight the power of collective action from the global South and to amplify grassroots demands for fairness, equality, and shared prosperity. I'm joined now by Lebo Mashile, a poet and storyteller, as well as Sekoetlane Phamodi, director of the New Economy Hub at the African Climate Foundation. Good afternoon to you both. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us. Yes.
Sekoetlane, I want to start with you. If you could just explain to us, briefly and simply what the impetus for having this summit is.
Okay. Well, we find ourselves in a very alarming conjuncture in all over the world. There's a rising cost of living crisis of epic proportions. We are entering, particularly for majority world countries, what we used to call the global South, are facing not only fiscal crises, but especially in Africa, also solvency crises. Just to situate it for you, 35 countries in Africa are spending more on debt servicing costs than they do on healthcare.
Sure.
25 of them are spending more in debt servicing costs more than on public education. Health and public education are fundamental to supporting and driving inclusive growth and development, because the wealth of our nations are our people rather than the commodities that we're expected to trade to our own exclusion. And so what we are really uniting around with this People's Summit for Global Economic Justice is really to start to engage society from across the world to form a political program of action to usher in a new economic world order that has our people at the center rather than the profiteering of the 1%, the billionaires of the world and the multinational corporations which are headquartered in Europe and North America in the main.
And how will you then be organizing? I mean, it's quite the ask, quite the demand that you'll be making in this summit. How will the organization look like?
Well, We the 99% is not an organization. It's a convening that we think people will want to actually form into a globally connected but locally embedded and acting social movement across the world. We currently have almost 3,000 people coming in, organized by delegations from all over the world, at least 30 countries. We've got over 200 organizations from Brazil to Mexico, from Indonesia and in India, as well as all over Africa, coming together, aligned on an 8-point plan or set of demands around which we want to actually organize. Some of the demands include things like taxing the 1%. It's an extraordinary thing that we are finding ourselves being forced to increase income tax and consumption tax, which harms the interests of the poor, rather than actually levying wealth taxes on the super wealthy elite, not the middle classes. We're talking about the dollar billionaires in our countries here in Africa especially, and we're most especially talking about the billionaires, because they have idle capital which is lying around, which accumulates simply because it's sitting in banks and simply being managed by asset managers to drive an economic system that is harming our people, impoverishing us, creating social instability, which then results in political instability, as we've been seeing in places like Kenya, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Morocco, Madagascar most recently. So what we're saying is we've got to tax the 1%. We've got to cancel odious debts and restructure the ways in which debt management practices happen, particularly for debt-distressed countries, so that we can get a fair deal on debt and we're not spending more on debt than we are on social expenditure, which we need. There are various other demands, including investment in climate justice and so forth, but certainly one can look at them on our website, we the99.org.
And Level, I mean, you are absolutely no stranger to the arts, to translating social challenges such as these into an art form, right? Into the spoken word in particular. How will you then be translating this demand or these demands into an art form?
I think what's beautiful about this summit is that it acknowledges that artists have always been speaking about these issues. Artists have always been speaking about how we can live with more dignity, how we can include people who are on the margins in mainstream conversations, how we can address issues like GBV, like inequality. So the artists who are in the lineup are people who are already addressing these issues in their work, or who are subversive and transgressive and expressive in their very being. So what's cool about the lineup is that you have the arts, but we also have these interesting touch points where people can interact with activists, where people can interact with the content that Sekoetlane was just speaking about. So the program it's quite dynamic, and we're asking people to come with curiosity, to come with an open mind. If you care about social justice issues, if you want to teach your children in an interesting way about these issues, this is a great space for families. It's Con Hill, which is such an important public space, such a transformative public space, a space that embodies the best of what we think our democracy is about, and is also an inclusive and open space. So this is really, if you're curious about these issues, if you're connected about these issues, if you care about creativity and culture, Joburg is exploding right now with creativity and culture. People are out, the streets are popping. So if you want to participate in the conversations that are happening at the G20, if you care about these issues and you don't have a platform to be able to ask questions, to interrogate, to make your voice heard, if you care about the arts, you can have both in this space. That's what we're inviting people to be prepared for. It's a long lineup, so come ready, come with your flat shoes, come with a spare jacket because we're going to be partying into the night, come ready to groove and ready to learn. And we want to give people the message as well that it's cool to become knowledgeable, it's cool to become informed. We are living these issues, which is very heavy. It's heavy when you walk into the supermarket with 1,000 rand and you walk out with one plastic bag. It's heavy, right? So a lot of the time people feel like, oh, I don't want to deal with these issues when I'm having fun because I'm having fun to escape from these issues. You can have both. And in fact, being more informed allows you to be able to make better decisions. It allows you to be able to approach your decision making with more knowledge. It allows you to become more curious about these issues, being able to decide on your finances, on everything from, how you school your children, how you deal with your own healthcare, from a place of understanding how these issues not just connect you to people all around the world. It puts you in a better position to be able to make decisions in this climate, which is chaotic for all of us. So don't be afraid of more information, More information puts you in a much more powerful position, and you can acquire this information at this event in a very fun and creative way. I'm lucky to be able to MC this. I'm going to be performing as well alongside Ipupolega Bigo. Buhlebendalo is headlining. We've got Durban Gogo playing. Maglera Dope Boy. I'm so excited. Ken Zero, people who I've come up with Kenny for many, many years. So it's a beautiful, also intergenerational lineup of creatives who care about justice, but who also can rock. Just because these are serious issues doesn't mean that we are not going to have an enormous amount of fun. Fun is high on the agenda.
No, it sounds it. It sounds it, Level. But we just had, my colleague Hugo was speaking to the CEO of Brand SA.
Yes.
Just about managing the image of South Africa ahead of the G20 summit. And something that he raised is, while we don't necessarily want to sweep issues that South Africa is beset with under the rug, we do have a responsibility in terms of messaging, right?
Yes.
How these messages and demands are packaged. Going into the summit, is this something that you are acutely aware of, that you are an artist and therefore your message translates the globe over, and you are a representative of South Africa? How you package your demands, your anger. I can sense it bubbling over as well, frustrations as well.
Yeah.
Are you aware, and will there be kind of a way in which you will be communicating your demands?
That's a really interesting and very important question. I think the beautiful thing about being an artist is that arts and creativity allow for the complex and contradictory emotions and feelings and sentiments to sit side by side in the same space. And there's not many platforms that allow for contradiction to sit side by side right now in this moment, you know? So, I mean, we have, at this summit, there are going to be activists and people coming from 40 different countries, from Latin America, Africa, and Asia, who are dealing with similar issues in their work, in their practice, every single day. So for me, I'm like, if we can put our creativity at the center, our agency, the opportunity that we have as human beings to grow through knowledge and through the application of our creativity at the center of what we're dealing with, then that really gives people tools, you know, to negotiate not just with these issues, but also with their own lives. Yes, South Africa is an incredible creative capital. It is a symbol of transformative justice in the world. It is a country that is very comfortable talking about uncomfortable things. We put our truth on the table, as dirty as it is, as dark as it is, as nasty as it is, it's on the table, along with our creativity, our art, our tremendous history of activism, of thinkers, of artists, of people who have been grappling with these issues for generations. So the good and the bad coexist. We are inviting people into our country to experience our creativity, to experience the wealth and abundance of intellectual capital that we have, all the beauty and the gifts that we have to offer the world. That sits side by side with our issues. And we're not afraid of that. We are finding a language as people for how to deal with the complexity and the contradiction of that. And we are also talking to countries who are dealing with the same thing. Like Brazil, Jamaica, all these, Kenya, you name it, Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, they're also wondering, are the lights going to come on today? Do I have faith in my government? Is the water going to come on? What's going to happen to my children in 10 years, in 5 years, in 20 years? We're asking the same questions.
Sekoetlane, Lebo mentioned how poignant it is, the venue that the summit is being held in, you know, given its cultural history. Tell us about how you foresee then the cultural program at Cornhill, a site which is deeply rooted in justice, also playing a role in your vision for the summit.
Well, fundamentally, we're saying we've got to unshackle ourselves from the excesses of global capitalism and how it causes fundamental social, economic, and interpersonal injustices in our societies. Constitutional Hill is really poignant as a site for having this kind of a conversation. It was once a prison. Prior to it being a prison, it was also a war fort where settler colonialists were fighting over the wealth of our land between themselves, to the exclusion of the majority of the people whose land this is, whose home this is, and who wanted peace, but now were caught up in these wars of imperialism. And so it becomes really important for us to use the site to really showcase that a better world is possible. A new economy is possible, but it requires all of us to collaborate and to cooperate in locally embedded but globally connected ways. So the three-day festival of ideas, of political action and culture building are really going to be focusing on reflecting on day one, really on the 20th, will be about reflecting on movement, memory and action, reminding ourselves of where we come from and how we have been on this course to fight for global economic justice and social justice, which are intertwined with one another, so that we can be free in a true sense, not just simply be free to be free, having political freedoms without economic freedoms. The second day will really then focus on our Solutions Festival, solutioning for what are the practical things that we as citizens of the world can do in our countries to be able to turn this thing around and and play a part in ushering in a new and just global economic order. And then on day 3 is the cultural festival that pulls it together to celebrate the movement work that we've been doing over decades, but also to celebrate our power and showcase it to the world that as the people of the world, of the majority world in particular, we are leading, we are demanding, and we are shaping the world that we want for ourselves. Whether the global powers, the 1% want it or not, we will make it happen because they need us, they need our votes, and they need the political legitimacy that we offer them in order to be able to enact the kinds of decisions that they might hope to. Ultimately, it must come back to who we are and what we demand for ourselves and for our freedoms.
Sekoetlane, very quickly, how do you foresee this movement living beyond the summit?
Well, this is part of the discussion that we will be having. How do we build and scale momentum around what we are doing? Already across the world, we are seeing an upswell for new left economic thinking. I think we all have to be embracing that. We can no longer continue to be engaging in a business as usual sort of way where the wealthy elites, the 1%, keep extracting wealth from the majority of the people. We have to reclaim our power. We have to demonstrate that the economy and democracy are deeply intertwined with one another and that we want a democratic, free society where we have economic security, where we have social and human well-being, and where we have planetary sustainability. If the government is serious around a G20 agenda and a G20 identity that realizes equality, solidarity, and sustainability, then they had better listen to what the people of the world, the 99%, are saying and are demanding from them and realizing and enacting what we are calling for.
That is the convener of the We the 99 People's Summit, Sekoetlane Phamodi, as well as Lebo Mashile, poet and storyteller. Thank you very much both for joining us.